Do you desire a masculine man? I think if I could see you right now, many of you have raised your hand or you're nodding your head or you said a big yes when I asked that question. And I think most of us would agree that the average woman, most women, desire a masculine man. Some of you may also argue that a lot of men today aren't masculine. They're not exuding that energy, which has made it more difficult for women to walk in their feminine energy. And speaking of feminine energy, I would hope most of you would agree, especially if you've been watching my previous videos, that the average man also wants a feminine woman. So we have this world where men want feminine women, women want masculine men, but we're all falling kind of short. Well, not all, but a lot are falling short in walking in their true energy that not only is desirable to the opposite sex, but enhances your own personal life. So where I'm going with this is the fact that men, and more specifically masculine men, because if you agree with me that you wanted a masculine man, then we have to focus on, well, what is that man mainly attracted to? What is he drawn to and why? And masculine men almost always will be drawn to a feminine woman. Now, there's going to always be caveats. We have to understand that we're not talking about who a man will have sex with, all right? Because who a man will lay down with is not dependent completely on their energy. It's more dependent on their looks and how those looks are attractive to that specific man. So it's going to vary what those looks are, right? But when we're talking about being serious, marriage, long-term commitment, most men would tell you that yes, they want a feminine woman. And again, specifically talking about masculine men. So I want to break down the why. Why? What's the reasons? What's the qualities that's really drawing them to that feminine woman? And I want you to be willing to embrace this. So for some of you who feel a little annoyed with the whole feminine masculine conversation, I want you to take a deep breath. All right? I want you to clear your mind. I want you to open your heart and your spirit up and just listen. Remember, I always speak with love and to help you achieve a better quality of life. Now, before I get into the 7 reasons why masculine men love feminine women, I want a couple principles I need to go over with you. The first thing is, do not confuse feminine woman with traditional woman. All right. I recently spoke at an event, the Dear Future Wife podcast, Dear Future Wifey podcast held an event. It was a big old panel. And one of the ladies on the panel, Jessie, she talked about how a lot of men that she meets, when they talk about they want a feminine woman, they're looking for someone who's going to cook, clean, be subservient to them, a bunch of other stuff. But there was a highlight on the duties and behavior of that woman. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to fully break everything down during the panel. But what I wanted to say, and I will say to you now, is traditional and feminine are 2 different things. Meaning, the behaviors of cooking, cleaning, housewife, all that stuff, those are traditional values. A woman could walk fully in her traditional values and not be feminine. There are, again, I've sat down with tons of couples, tons of married couples, tons of people who've gotten divorced, and I've seen tons of examples of women who did all those things, but were still very hard, very rough, very negative. There was no feminine energy coming out of them, but they did and embraced the duties of a traditional wife. On the flip side, you can have a woman who does none of that. She doesn't touch the stove. She doesn't touch a mop. She does no kind of domestication in the household and could be the most feminine woman out there. Because feminine energy, or we can even say feminine spirit, it's about what's within coming out. It's about that aura. It's about how you speak. It's about how you carry yourself. It's completely separate from very specific behaviors, at least when it comes to things like cooking, cleaning, so on and so forth. So a lot of women have confused those 2 things, and it's distorted a lot of people's ability to embrace and understand what we're talking about when we say feminine. So that's the first thing. Now, the second principle I need to let you know about, this is my personal thing that I came up with, that this is the way that I see it, that I want to share with you. I believe that for a lot of women, when you're walking in your masculine, you are trying to survive. When you are walking in your feminine, you are trying to thrive. All right. Now, I kind of got this from this concept of this guy who was, I think he was a bodybuilder or nutritionist. I can't remember. I think he was a bodybuilder. And he said, you know, when you're exercising and trying to lose weight, you're either going to put your body in survive mode or thrive mode. And a lot of times the things that people are doing, crash diets, going all intense with certain practices, they're pushing their body into survive mode. And it's a very miserable process. Now, they may still get results to a certain extent, but it's very miserable. And most people don't make it to the end because of how miserable it is. But there is an approach you can take that puts your body in thrive mode that will still get you the result, but you'll be happier. It'll be a much better process. Okay. So I view that the same when it comes to masculine and feminine energy for a lot of women. Not that there aren't going to be moments where you tap into your masculine, just as I believe there are going to be moments and times where men have to tap into their feminine. But when you are walking in your masculine as your dominant energy, you are constantly in survival mode. And by constantly being in survival mode, you are constantly stressing the body, stressing your mind out. Understand that, like, when you're in survival mode, your cortisol levels are going up. Now, if you're not familiar with cortisol, those are stress. That's raising the stress levels. And that's throwing your whole body out of whack in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not a doctor, so, you know, you can check some of that medical lingo with someone else, but I'm sharing with you my understanding of things. But yes, I believe that it's survive versus thrive. And so when I am trying to encourage you to embrace femininity and walk more in it, is because I'm trying to push you into thrive mode. I'm trying to push you into the process where you will find more peace, more happiness, better results. I know it can be difficult for many of you, but you just have to trust me. There's a process, and if you're willing to embrace that process, you're gonna see the results. All right, so I gave you those two principles that I had to make sure we talked about, but let's get into the 7 reasons why masculine men love feminine women. And reason number 1 is because he feels valued with a feminine woman. And I want to add to that, he has a role with her. So I'm sure many of you have seen, heard, or even experienced situations where if a man finds you to be very independent, he starts to say, like, well, you don't need me here. Like he starts to feel like he doesn't have any place in your life. And that can make some men feel inadequate, or it can make some men feel like, well, I'm not needed here. Let me go somewhere where I'm going to be more appreciated and valued. All right. And the reality is that when a woman is walking more in her feminine, she is allowing that man to live in the role of man, of being more of a leader, of providing for her, of pouring into her. All right. Things that are not about being her dictator or her ruler, but being a man who wants to love, protect, cherish, uplift, all these positive things. Now, I understand that the concern for so many women is that when you allow some men to do that, they try to take advantage. And instead, they use your femininity as a chance to abuse you, right? But that is an example of you dealing with the wrong man, not of femininity being a problem, all right? I always say femininity is not the issue. Your selection process may be, all right? Who you are entertaining. And once you see a man does not honor your femininity, then that is your clear flag, red flag, or your clear sign that you don't need to deal with him. But don't stop being feminine. But back to the point, the masculine man, you know, you have to understand that a man who is walking in his masculine, he is a man who has learned how to stand on his own 2 feet. He is a man who has learned how to handle his business. All right. He is going to be more assertive. So for him to walk into your life and he can't implement the skills that he has accomplished in life, he can't add anything to you. It just takes away from the ability to come together and bond. Now, if you're struggling with why should that be important, if you're independent, that should be less of a burden on him. Look at it like this. A lot of women when they have a child, all right, and that child is still of an age where she has to take care of that child and pour into that child, women love that stage, okay? Because here is a chance to pour love into this person, to receive love back, to feel appreciated as a mother, all these things. Once the child gets old enough to where they become very independent, if they do, because some children stay up under their mother for Lord knows how long, if not forever. But if that child detaches and becomes more independent, you will see where a lot of women start to feel some kind of way. Because now it's like the child is not letting you love them. You want to be able to do for them and pour into them, and now they're not giving that opportunity. Not that you expect to do all the things you used to do, but something, right? Because that's how we all in a relationship in any relationship that we are dealing with someone that we love, we want to bring value to them. That's just the reality of it, all right? Users want to take, love wants to give. And so when there's real love there, that's what you want to do. So when that man is not able to and he has no role in your life, that can cause conflict. But when he's with a feminine woman, it's so much easier for her to slide into a position that allows him to step up and be the man that he wants to be for the woman he truly cares about. All right, now reason number 2 why masculine men love feminine women is because she knows how to be playful and flirtatious, all right? So one of the things that you got to understand with a lot of men is we don't want a woman who's so serious all the time, so uptight. You can't make a joke with. Everything she's going to get sensitive about. It creates a situation where the man has to walk on eggshells. It makes things very uncomfortable. All right. And it just creates tension in the relationship. Now, listen, let's be real. I think most of you don't want a guy who's going to be serious all the time either. All right. So, and a lot of these things I'm talking about can go both ways in principle. Okay. But let's just stay focused on the feminine woman and why that masculine man loves that kind of a woman. So yes, being able to be playful, flirtatious, and understand we're flirtatious. Here's the big reason why flirtatious is so important, especially to a masculine man. Flirting expresses desire. Flirting expresses attraction. These are 2 very important things to men, all right? And when you understand that the average man does not get compliments on a regular. See, you as a woman, you are more likely, I know every woman's not the same, but you are more likely to have lived life, have gotten random compliments from this stranger, that stranger, online, offline, all these things, all right? To the point where some of you are like, yo, I don't even want all this attention all the time. Men are deprived of that, all right? The average man, and here's the thing, it's not even, some of y'all might say, well, maybe he just doesn't look that good. No, that's not what it is. Even very good looking men sometimes don't get complimented often because a lot of women may think, well, I don't want to get his head too big. He probably hears this from every woman, all this stuff. They play hard. And so he doesn't receive that energy from a woman all the time. So when he's with a feminine woman who, again, in femininity, women are able to be more vulnerable. And to me, I believe that flirting, affection is a more vulnerable act. And you're comfortable doing it when you learn to walk in your feminine energy. So that flirtation, that affection, that touch, that look, that smile, that, being playful and sexy with him, the man loves that. If he's attracted to you, he is typically going to love that. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. There may be some men who are ultra conservative and they don't want none of that stuff. I would argue that there may be something wrong there, okay? But that's a whole different discussion. Typically though, men love it. So when you're able to tap into that playfulness and willingness to flirt, it's very effective and makes you a lot more desirable. All right, so let's keep this going. So the third reason why masculine men love feminine women is because feminine women tend to put more effort into their presentation, okay? So listen, I ain't here to judge none of y'all, okay? And I'm not here to tell you how you need to specifically look or specifically dress or whatever. But I think we all can agree that some women put more effort than others. All right. And effort can equate to better presentation, a higher level of being attractive. Let me mention this. This is kind of a side note, but it kind of goes with this. I was just looking at a TikTok earlier and I forgot what it was about, but basically it was just pointing out the fact that the difference between some of the women you see online getting all this attention, and men flocking to them, is just hair, makeup, presentation. Like when that stuff comes off, they're not that much different than the next woman who's not doing those things. It's just that the presentation catches the attention of the man and it draws them in. I also think that the argument can be made that a lot of men, in today's world of makeup and filters and all these extra layers that women are being able to add to their presentation online, right? And makeup being in person, men understand or have accepted there's going to be a deviation a lot of times from makeup version to non-makeup version. And as long as that deviation isn't like completely drastic, right? They're not sweating it too much. What I'm getting at here is that just the willingness to better present yourself can open doors, and as long as not a drastic change after that, can help keep them in. Now, of course, it's more than just looks and presentation, but I think we can all agree that plays a huge role. Let's just be adults about this. It plays a huge role. Whether some may think it should or shouldn't, it does. All right. So the feminine woman tends to be a woman who is more willing to do that. It also, I'm always bringing up examples from funny shows I watch. It reminds me of, I watch a lot of South Park, okay? Some of y'all may not be familiar with that show, but there was an episode where the kids were, there was a girl in person, she wasn't cute, one of the kids at school, and then she goes, takes these pictures, puts them on her social media, and the guy, he's standing next to the girl as she looks normal, but he's showing off the picture of her online. And it's that's enough for him to want to be with her because at least she can look like that. You see what I'm saying? It's the fact that she can even look like that that's okay, yeah, I'm going to talk to her. So it's just funny because I do kind of see that play out in a lot of people's lives where to them, they just want to know their woman can look good when it's time to really look good, can step up the game when it's time to step up the game. All right. But they don't expect her to be on that 24/7. Some men make, again, exceptions to every rule, but many are just saying, can she at least achieve that? So again, going back to the main point, the feminine woman is someone who's showing she can. And shoot, sometimes the makeup and everything comes off and the woman looks even better to the man. So it's a plus. Because now okay, she knows how to dress up and put effort into herself and she looks amazing natural. That's a win-win. So it is something that definitely plays into why masculine men are drawn to feminine women. All right. So now next on the list of why masculine men love feminine women is that feminine women tend to exude more positive energy. All right. So again, remember what I said in the very beginning when we talked about feminine versus traditional. Traditional tends to speak to a lot of the behaviors, but feminine energy is more about what you're giving off, okay? And so positive energy tends to be directly correlated to that. I can't think of a woman who's exuding feminine energy, but exudes negative energy at the same time, all right? That's usually not the case. She may have a very feminine presentation. So she may be wearing all girly stuff. She may be all done up, all that kind of stuff. So she looks very womanly, whatever you want to call it. But if she does not exude feminine energy from within, then her energy does not come out looking positive. It's going to come out more hard, more negative, all these things. And yes, for some of you may say, well, I still see that type of woman get a man all the time. Because as I said earlier, you got to understand that, looks will still attract many men. And who a man will sleep with versus who a man will actually take serious and want to marry is two different things. And sometimes it is that energy that's going to swing it one way or the other. All right. So exuding more positive energy is definitely a common theme in the feminine woman. Now, here's the crazy part. I will acknowledge and admit to you that I have met women who exude feminine energy, right? But they got some negative energy in them, okay? And they got some things they've learned how to manage and push to the side. Now, I'm not encouraging that because I would encourage you to resolve that issue, right? But there are women out there who have mastered being able to kind of push that to the side, that negativity, and walk more in their feminine energy. And they know when to allow themselves to bring it out where it won't work against them as much, so to speak. All right. But again, that's not healthy because the average person cannot properly manage that. The average woman, if you're holding on to negativity like that, it's going to come out and it's going to come out at the worst time. And it can completely derail your relationship. That's why you'll see some situations where you'll see this woman that presents herself as very feminine and she's still struggling in relationships. And some of y'all may think, oh, well, it's these men. It's because dating is so hard. But what you don't know in many situations, I won't say all, is that behind closed doors, she's a menace. She is more difficult than you can ever imagine. She just knows how to not show that when she's walking around in the streets. When I say in the streets, walking around, being out and about at work, all these things. But behind closed doors, it's a different story. And so a lot of men end up, so they're drawn in, but they end up running later because they can't deal with it. All right. And so with that said, I want to encourage all of you to heal. If you don't know, you may know already, I have the book Love After Heartbreak, but even better, I want you to check out my group coaching program, which gives you all the steps to healing. It gives you steps on how to tap into your feminine energy, how to meet more relationship-minded men, how to find your purpose. There's a whole slew of things. We do live Q&As. I answer your personal questions. This is an opportunity for you to really get that transformation that, again, it's not about just men. It's about you being happier, you living a higher quality of life. So you can go to receivingmyblessings.com or click the link in the description or in the comments section. But yes, healing from the past is going to help you immensely in, yes, exuding positive energy, but also getting back in touch with your feminine energy and being able to more consistently walk in it. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here. And I'll see you there. People getting played, having their time wasted, getting their heart broken, being led on, right? And being disappointed. And so one of the things I always aim to do is to encourage people to be more intentional.